You had a tweet recently about action lines, and it got a lot of traction. A lot of people engaged. Can we start with what action lines are aimed to accomplish?
I think that action lines are aimed to accomplish two things. Tell you what is happening, but also how we see what is happening. And you can use words to sort of secretly cue your reader into how they should be seeing what's happening. And I think one of the coolest parts of screenwriting is that we can use words to cue in the reader's brain how they see what's happening, even without telling them how they should see what's happening.
Let's see, what kind of an example? So if we were to say, she entered the room with a sarcastic grin, or she crept in from this, I don't know, can you help me out?
Yeah.
I need some help here.
I think you can, if you want to start a line, a toothy grin spreads across her face as the doorknob clicks and she enters the room. The first thing I'm going to see is that toothy grin. So even though I didn't say close up on mouth, the reader will probably just see a mouth grinning because I haven't told them yet that this is a room. So they're only thinking in terms of what they've been told, because that's just the way our brain works. I'm not going to imagine something that no one has cued me to imagine. But if I wanted to say the room sits vacant as a door opens and she enters smiling, you're already in the room, and I've told the reader that there's a room, which a room is probably going to cue a wide shot, and then the door opens and she enters and she has the grin. Now it's the same action in both, but I have used different words to hopefully cue the reader into how I think they should be seeing it. And I haven't told the director necessarily how to shoot it, but I've suggested what I think might be best for the story. And then if a director takes that and says, that's great, that gives me an idea for something even stronger, and they use a wide shot to get what I was trying to achieve, even better. Because I'm not telling them how to do their job, I'm just suggesting it. But either way, the director, the actress, the production designer, everyone knows that all we need to do is just get this actress entering the room smiling. I've just suggested what I think is the best way to visually tell that. But even if none of that gets across, she's still entering the room smiling. And that's as far as I need to take it, I think.
So the one where she's smiling or the toothy grin, which one do you think is? I like the toothy grin in some sense because that keeps me like, toothy as in showing the canines? Is it like a little more mischievous, or is it she's overjoyed?
I think it would depend on the context, and those are the kind of choices that you get to make as a screenwriter when you're deciding on about how to tell the audience how to see what is in your screenplay. So if it's really important to me that this is an establishing shot of this character, and I want the first thing the audience to see when they first meet this character is her toothy grin, then I'm going to want to cue that with those words. But if this is not necessarily that important, or there's other considerations or other reasons I don't want to draw too much attention to this character and her grin, I might not do that. And I might just have her enter the room from the wide, because it's more important that the room is vacant. That's the creative choice that I want to have in the screenplay. Perhaps this is an apartment that this woman is entering where she lived with her husband, and she's had a good day, so she enters smiling, but we already know it's vacant and we see her face drop. So it's more important that we see the apartment vacant first. But I could also flip that. We could be on her with the toothy grin, maybe just a big smile, but I can say big smile, she opens the door and finds an empty apartment. Her face falls. So I can basically, even though it's the same action, I can swap those two visually with my words and actually create different effects in the audience.
In one of your tweets, you mentioned writing action lines with special attention paid to word order and what you call anchoring nouns.
Mm-hmm.
What is an anchoring noun?
An anchoring noun is a term that I made up because I didn't know what else to call it. But for me, it's the first noun that you encounter that communicates what sort of shot you should be seeing the action I'm describing. So if I say an orchard sprawls across the valley, I haven't said wide shot, but orchard to me is the anchoring noun that anchors you visually into a wide shot, because you don't picture an orchard in close-up, because I've told you it's an orchard, it's a big thing. If I say an apple sits on a branch, then the anchoring noun would be apple, and I've kind of cued you into a closer shot, even though I haven't said camera close-up on or anything like that. So those nouns and where you place them are just what I call anchoring nouns, because it anchors you to the image that I want you to picture in your head.
And does that also kind of correspond with grounded stories, grounded cinema, in some sense? Because it's sort of... Maybe there's no correlation.
I'm not sure if it could.
Okay, it's all right.
Well, because to me, this is like it's just like a little craft thing, and depending on how people use it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a tool in the toolkit, and I think people can employ it to any level of stories. It can be an incredibly heightened, not grounded, like fun space romp, but you can still use anchoring nouns for heightening some of that craziness.
What is visual writing in a screenplay?
To me, visual writing is writing with the notion that this is something to be seen. So using words that, in my mind, are visually sticky. So a character walking across the room doesn't evoke a very strong visual thing for me, but a character leaping across the room, I guess that seems more visual to me because it's just more of a specific action. So I can picture a leap that's very specific, and it's different than a walk.
Okay, yeah, this walk sort of falls flat, but with leaping, there's more of an urgency to it, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that.
I don't know if there's more of an urgency to it, but there's a specificity to it. A character that shuffles across the room, I can picture that, and I can picture that very differently than a leap. But a walk kind of falls flat because we just see people walk every day, so there's nothing inherently unique about that action. And if the character's just walking and they should not be doing anything else, then I think use walk. It's not that you have to use something else, but if there's anything you can give me that is just a little more specific than walk, I'm gonna be able to picture it, I think, a little bit easier.
So if you don't want to call attention to the walk, if it's not really a major thing in the story, then just maybe keep it something like that, a walk, something more bland. But if there's a point to what you're trying to make, or this character is going to be doing something or setting it up for something, then that's where the more visual, the better?
Yeah, and I think the more specific, the better. Every noun and verb in your script is an opportunity to tell the audience something. And the more specific you can be with your nouns and verbs, the less you have to use adjectives and adverbs, which saves you space. And so a character reluctantly walks is more words than saying a character shuffles across the room or a character pads across the room.
Oh, I like where this is going. This is great.
Yeah, the more specific you can be with your nouns and your verbs, the less adjectives and adverbs you'll have to use in your screenplay.
Do you see that a lot with newer writers?
I think with newer writers, the thing that I see the most is more words rather than less.
So overwritten?
I think overwritten might be a way to put it.